Can you all hear me okay? Good. All right, so the presentation's entitled The State of Martech Report. I'm going to pull out some nuggets from that, but I'm also going to interweave it with some interesting real-world stuff about what's going on, what we're doing with our customers around the world. A little bit about us. We're Intent HQ. We're still small. We're 125 people, but we've been called out for the last 3 years as one of the fastest growing technology companies in Europe. As I stand here right now, we have 250 million customer profiles running through our platform every single day, from America, from Africa, from Europe, from the Far East. Why do customers use us? We have a set of proprietary patented technologies which allow our customers to understand their customers better than anyone else. It's that simple. Hopefully you'll get a flavor. For that, about half of our team are data scientists. That's really important because we're working with some of the world's most advanced data science teams. My background was 10 years at Telefonica previously. So I ran the personalization and customer engagement program. So just to put it into context, that involved rolling out things like Intent HQ, but Pega, Salesforce, Telium, Adobe, all of the usual suspects, SaaS. So many experiences of doing things right and not doing things right as well, which hopefully will bring a little bit of context today. Final bit before we get into some of the snippets, we're a top 100 edge computing company. I will explain what that means in our context. Edge AI, putting the AI on the phone, processing all of the customer data on the phone, the data never leaving the phone. So totally privacy safe. Relevance is one of the topics that comes out in the State of Martech Report. Context. Going from the world that we operated over the last 10 years or so, where the context was based very much on the customer's reaction to what that brand had done. Have they sent them a campaign? Have they responded to that campaign? Through which channel? Do they respond on a Friday night through online? Whatever it may be. We are today able to understand the actual customer context in the moment, so to give you a much wider view of what the customer is doing. We help our customers to be relevant with their customers whilst protecting customer privacy and building trust. Privacy is absolutely critical today, but in a privacy-safe world, it's actually been a great stimulant for further innovation, for technologies like Edge AI, where we are running everything and deriving the actual customer context on the device. As part of this, we save companies a lot of money. Personally speaking, when I was a customer, we went from 400 messages per customer per year to about 65 messages per customer per year, whilst increasing profitability and revenues. So just to set some context, as you know, AI now powers content, channel, product, and offer recommendations. This is out of the State of Martech Report, which I believe gets released at about 12:05 today, once I've finished this talk. The capabilities are no longer experimental. They're foundational to delivering scalable and relevant experiences. When they're relevant, you get response. When they're relevant, you can engage with the customer without losing that customer trust. And that's really important, because customers are drowning in content, but they're starving for connection, absolutely starving for connection. Depending on which report you read, we are receiving, each of us, up to 10,000 different messages a day. That has increased since the advent of social media, of course. Loyalty is dead. Brands like to think that they've got loyal customers. They've got their loyalty apps, they try to build it, but swipes, skips, and unsubscribes dominate. Most of the brands are noise. It's not reach, it's relevance. And this is hugely important because the culture is so deeply embedded in so many companies. Want more revenues, want increased profitability, turn up the campaign volume. That was very much the world we lived in at Telefonica. And so you need to be able to wean the business off that. And to wean the business off that, you've got to give them some demonstrable results of doing it in a different way, in a way that is a little bit more contextual, that drives relevance. The paradigm shift around relevance is really important. It's urgent. It's been seen a function of targeting the right customer segment with the right offer, but today it's far more. It's about understanding these sorts of things about the customer in the moment. And we're going to explore a little bit of that today. The old paradigm was campaigns, was more messages, static relevance, clicks and views. The new paradigm, conversations, contextual value, moment-based, so it's about that interaction now. It's not about participation as part of a campaign, an emotional affinity. So let's go to some of the key call-outs from the report that dovetail with what I've been talking about. Agent-led orchestration, AI-native tools, and composable architectures are driving the next wave of innovation. Privacy, ethics, and governance are shaping how the future unfolds. The composable architecture piece and the orchestration piece, I would imagine you're going to hear quite a bit of here today. Composable architecture, I speak as one who has first-hand experience of not doing a composable architecture and then moving to a far more composable architecture. It is really breaking that big silo from a single vendor and just going for the best-of-breed capabilities in a way that you can really leverage. You're not limited by the functionality on a per product, per platform basis from that single vendor. Hugely important, something that we did manage to do at Telefonica, but we didn't start that way, and it cost us for a couple of years. Privacy, ethics, and governance. The governance piece, I would imagine you have all been doing, but really understanding what your obligations are, really understanding how can you still understand some of the customer context without necessarily identifying the individual, and we'll come on to that. Nice quote here from HSBC, from Hazim Al-Taha. We're not trying to fully activate AI capabilities, but we're focusing on high-impact use cases that are being piloted in specific markets before rolling out across the bank. That dovetails with this one, adopting a dual-speed operating model. We're seeing this ourselves now with our customers. So when you come to roll out some of these latest technologies that we're going to get a little bit more into, whether it's Gen AI, Edge AI, Agentic AI, which you've heard about, causal AI, you can't just roll it out across your organization, but we are working with customers, identifying very specific use cases and showing the results, showing the response that you get, whether it's a cross-sell use case, whether it's an upsell use case, a retention use case, an acquisition use case. I love this quote in the report. You shouldn't be afraid of AI taking your job. You should be afraid of someone using AI to do your job better. That totally resonates. We are seeing, I was in Africa last week with one of our clients, and the technology is, in some cases, there. In some cases, it's emergent, but in many cases, the tech is there. But how you leverage that technology to actually get the most out of it, and the level to which you equip yourself with the knowledge to leverage that technology. And I'm not talking about turning marketeers into data scientists, but I am talking about getting data literacy and comfort around the data across the organization up. And this is really important. And this is a call out from Red Bull Racing, which on a personal note, that would really fascinate me. I'd love to have a longer chat with them. But to ensure data readiness is delivered enterprise-wide, it's necessary to create a culture of data literacy across all relevant divisions. Now, there are many ways that I could talk to you about how I've seen success achieved in that area and where I've seen challenges. But one way to really improve data literacy is to expose the data in a really simple, meaningful way. So what we do here, we do this with one of our customers in the States right now today. They are able to type into our platform the commercial results that they want from any particular activity, from any particular campaign. The AI then goes and selects the optimal audience. It's not scary stuff. There's a lot of very clever stuff happening under the hood. And you can size that audience. You can size the conversion rates you want. Do you want to go for an audience that's much smaller, where you get really high conversion rates, or are you prepared to take a little bit of a risk, fan that audience out, and accept that you'll get lower conversion rates through a larger, perhaps slightly less targeted audience? Composable tech, AI-native tooling, this is this continual buzzword. You'll see this in the State of Martech report coming out again and again and again. The idea now that we are building these service-based architectures in order to allow our customers to take advantage of the best-of-breed capabilities. When it comes to what we do at Intent HQ, our ability to understand the customer in my view, is second to none. But there are other platforms in the ecosystem, there are other capabilities that are also very important in order to be able to ultimately engage the customer in the way that the brand needs to, because engaging the customer in the way that the brands have been is just not working. Based on campaign response, based on recent interaction history, it's not about that. It's actually, what is the customer doing right now, in this moment, today? This one's an interesting one. So Philips Digital COE, Henk Jan ter Brugge. It's a more composable core stack with a long tail of AI native tools and a focus on seamless data integration. Conversely, in the selection process, we've become less concerned about the UI, as prompting and conversational interfaces will take over. They are here. They are here. That comfort level, you still need the UI and the UX. People need to see patterns. They want to see the flows. They want to see the sorts of things that I had on the screen a couple of minutes ago. But equally, they just want to be able to type. They want to be able to type straight into it. And this is something we're doing right now today. For a really specific audience, so a high data volume, weekend gaming customers. So for a telco, for a mobile operator, suggest one offer to increase customer value and a second offer to reduce churn. So we're taking it a step further. We could find that audience really quickly in our capability, but now we're saying to the platform, we're just typing it in. So very specific. I want to identify people who at the weekend are using high volumes of data, and I want to make sure if they're at risk of leaving us, how do we find that audience? I will just ask the machinery to do it. And then, of course, I want to engage with them in a way that resonates with them. So can you generate me an image that's most likely to resonate? That image might not be right, okay? It still needs the human lens over it. But what is it doing? It is saving us so much time. I cannot tell you, in my previous life at Telefonica, we were matching all of the audiences with the appropriate image, with the appropriate text. So if we had someone who was into fashion versus someone who was into active sports, but we wanted to sell them an iPhone 16, we would target them with different imagery, different text. Active sports versus someone who's into high-end fashion. All of that text had to be, and the images had to be tagged up. Someone had to do that. And that was a really laborious job for which there wasn't a lot of thanks, but it slowed down our whole ability to respond enormously. What this is doing, and we're seeing, we're not in the place yet where the AI can do it or anywhere close, but it's taking huge chunks of time out of the customer engagement process. There's definitely a higher expectation to deliver ROI with the MarTech that we acquire. Absolutely. How quickly can we deliver money back? Not just promising better engagement, but what are we delivering? In some cases, we're able to deliver 24 times conversion. 24 times, not 24%, but 24 times conversion. And we're being measured quite sternly and quite quickly, typically within a 9 to 12-week process, for what are you actually getting back? Prove to me this technology works. And how does it meet the data and privacy regulations? So we have a little toolbox of the various AI capabilities. I'm going to just talk about one that you probably don't hear so much about, and you're probably not going to hear so much about at this particular event. You'll hear about Gen AI, agentic causal, of course, machine learning, edge AI. And this is just fascinating because the phones have increased in power. They now have the resources to do amazing things. We are running the AI on the phone. We're running the models on the phone. We're processing all of the data from the customer, from the behavior and activity on the phone. But with one key point, none of that data leaves the phone. That data does not go into the cloud. All of that data stays on the device. And so in that world, it is a wonderful solve for the privacy and regulatory obligations that all of us here have one way or another. We pick up signals from Bluetooth, from the accelerometer, from Wi-Fi, from the installed app footprint. We see signals of average headset volume, font size, screen brightness. Based on understanding this context, we can now trigger a message in the moment. But there's one other piece to it as well. That message comes down to the phone. It doesn't appear at that second until you get the phone out of your pocket or until you swipe up on the home screen. because Edge AI is on the phone, because our technology is on the phone, we see the movement on the accelerometer or the swipe up on the screen instantly. At that moment, we reveal the message. We've got a patent on it. We call it optimal moment to engage. As a result of this, we are able to trigger the message at the right moment, but we're also able to make the message appear at exactly the right moment. You now are able to see, with Edge AI, what the customer is doing over the course of their day, their week, their month, when they may not be engaged with your brand. What are they doing the rest of the time? Do they get up early in the morning? Do they go for a run? Do they commute to work 3 times a week? Do they do it by car? What time do they leave work? What time do they leave home? We're able to do that without harvesting the customer's personally identifiable information. We're able to do that even without harvesting location data. We do not need to harvest location data. How is that possible, you say? Because we are able, through the phone, to recognize familiar devices. So Wi-Fi at home, other laptops, other phones at home, and the time you might be in that environment. So between 7 and 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday evening, 7 and 9 o'clock in the evening, what devices do we see you're connecting to, what Wi-Fi, what router? We identify that as your home environment. We do exactly the same at work. So let's say during typical working days, what devices do you connect to? What's the Wi-Fi? We don't need to know the location of your work, but we identify you as being in the work environment. We can then have unique fun because we can say, right, these people leave home at this time, they leave work at this particular time. Let us send them a contextual message with this understanding at that point. And then you're into a very different world in terms of engagement and in terms of conversion. Privacy, I touched on this earlier. From our perspective, huge challenges. I often joke when I was at Telefonica, for whatever I did badly in a previous life, they also gave me the GDPR program to run. May the 25th, 2018 is indelibly etched on my memory. We set up a bridge, an open phone line, and we thought we had everything all planned and all worked out. And the idea was just call into this bridge just in case something goes wrong. Well, I can tell you at 8 o'clock, the bridge was stacked full of different people from the organization, all on the line, and yeah, it was a long day. The good news from our point of view is that it's really forced innovation. Because what did we see as a result of GDPR? We saw explicit consent being mandatory. We saw our consent rates plummet. In Telefonica Spain, their consent rates plummeted to 20%. Having basically been able to market to the whole base. So how do you change that? How do you get trust? How do you engage with customers? How do you give them confidence that you don't need to understand everything about them in order to be able to engage with them effectively? We can analyze these behavioral patterns without sending data to the cloud. We can offer the real-time contextual personalization without harvesting PII. All of the processing is executed on the device. We do that whilst consuming less than 1% of battery life every 24 hours. This comes back to what you'll see referenced a lot in the State of Martech report. Relevance evidence. The companies that are relevant with their customers have great results. The companies that aren't relevant with their customers don't have such great results. It is commercially an imperative in order, especially today, especially in the world where, as per one of the earlier slides, 10,000 messages per day that we are all swamped by. So our view is that the companies that are winning today, and we're seeing it's a super competitive market, but the companies that are winning today are changing the narrative. They're not just looking at demographics, they are truly understanding customer behavior. And that's an interesting one to lift the lid on, because you'll hear a lot of people talking about context, you'll hear a lot of people talking about understanding the customer behavior. But the best way that we could do it 5 years ago in Telefonica was all based, as the customer called into the call center, if they walked into a store, what was the conversation about? If they called into the call center, what was the call reason code? Was it successfully resolved, yes or no? Have they been on the website? It was all about our understanding of the customer was, we thought, great, but it was all based on their interaction with us. It wasn't based on what's their world look like, what do they do, actually? What changes from summer to winter? You know, do we suddenly see, we would run summer of sports and summer of music campaigns. Do we suddenly see a shift there in people's interest and brand affinities? The answer is yes. But we can now see that without being intrusive. We can now see that with harvesting their personal data without any of that data leaving the device. So yeah, orchestrating the moments, not just messages, and using the latest technologies to personalize without invading privacy. Some quick little examples. I talked earlier about the sorts of things that we use the technology to do when we engage with customers. These are actual examples from work that we're doing in the States with Verizon. So you've got a customer on the left there who's into active sports, a lady on the right who is into contemporary fashion. Same end target, but we message them in very different ways, different text, different imagery. And the results speak for themselves. We're moving out globally now. In India, one of India's largest financial services conglomerates, I'll just draw your attention to that top left box at the bottom there, 9 times click-through performance as a result of what we're able to do. Huge increase in monthly active users that we're able to get as well, because we retain the ability in Edge to be able to message the customer even if the app has not been used for days or weeks or months. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot of stuff that's changing. One of the call-outs in the State of Martech report is how the CMO's role will need to change. Because there's a fundamental rethink happening here. So firstly, you know, the CMOs that we're talking to who are successful are embracing this and saying, right, you know, how are we going to strategize this AI-powered growth? You know, I, as the CMO, I will own a plan. I will work out what we're going to do. No, we're not going to be able to roll it out across the organization. But what are those first use cases? What are we going to target this quarter? Let's get specific. What upsell use case are we going to target this quarter and see if we can get it to work? What's the plan for the rest of the year look like? Start putting that together. The orchestration of the hybrid, the human and the agentic teams. There are big implications in terms of skill sets. There are big implications in terms of some additional training, bringing in new skill sets. But equally, there's a whole load of the humans there who are not at risk, actually, but their skills, so marketeers, data-savvy, analytics-savvy marketeers, super useful resource right now. They're able to onboard those new skills quickly as well. The CMO also will now become the champion of ethical intelligence. So what does that mean? That means understanding how to engage with customers contextually without harvesting their personal data. QR code is on the bottom right. The State of Martech report, I believe, will be available in the next 5 minutes if any of you are interested in downloading it. My name's Jonathan Woolf. We've got a little stand out back there. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention.